Hi, folks. Welcome to Thursday's edition of I Write Radio. We've videocast and podcast. No First Minister's questions today, although she did have fun at her press conference. We now know why the press pack is referred to as a pack. A bunch of hyenas, as Stewart would say.
Absolutely.
We'll go with the presser because that leads on to various other elements of what's happening politically just now. Stuart, you kind of got quite a lot on this today. I'll let you go with it.
Well, we could lead with the content, but I think we should lead with the real story. The real story was the number one. Oh God, I've got to be careful about my language here. The number one press person for the government, Laura Kuenssberg, was also number one questioner at this press briefing today. I wonder why. And one other thing too, I watched it on Sky News for as long as I could. They actually took it past 1 o'clock news time. Not like them. They usually drift away from the about 7 minutes before 1. No, they were up there. There was who else was there? The guy from Channel 4, Gary Gibbon. Oh, yeah. They were all there looking for a big story, a division between Scotland and the rest of the UK.
I will warn you, you're breaking up, Stuart. Your Wi-Fi, I think, is a bit dodgy. Don't think it's your equipment. I did notice was there 3 different journalists from the Times. I thought I heard them mentioned. ITV had ITV Borders, STV and ITV. Channel 4 was there unusually. And as I think I'd have to agree with you on that one, Stuart, that what they were looking for was some split between Scotland and our UK that they could get their mucky paws into. Jimmy?
To be honest with you, mate, I thought they were looking for guidance for tonight's 5 o'clock presser in London. I thought, given how poorly they performed in there, and I've no idea who's drawn the short straw today, but given how poor their performance is, I think Laura Kuenssberg was sent up here specifically to get, or she was asking the question, to get the Scottish line so that they could follow it. Because genuinely, I know you got your usual suspects with Express and the Sun asking their nonsense wee Diddy questions, but that's nonsense wee Diddy papers, so we can't be too surprised at that. I thought that Nicola handled things very well, given that she's asking almost the impossible of people. Please behave, please stay in lockdown, but we've no idea how we're going to manage the exit strategy because we've not really got one. What we're really doing is publishing a wee set of suggestions and seeing how people will react. And to be honest, I think the reaction will be bigger south of the border than it will be up here.
I think they've played it quite cleverly up here, the Scottish government, that is, by floating the possibilities. Because instead of it being nitpicked to hell and back, if they do it as they're making their decisions, they've probably made their decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an opportunity to insist that the people were involved in those decisions.
Yeah, they certainly know what's going to happen the first few weeks, mate. I mean, it seems pretty clear that all the pressure's going to be on things like opening a garden centre so that these places didn't absolutely lose the entirety of their year's business. They can sell some bedding plants, they can sell this and that.
Aye.
And it gives a way for, given that the garden centres aren't exactly prevalent on every high street, it gives them a way to open retail very, very slowly, doesn't it?
Yeah. Stuart?
Right, well, do we talk about content? I suppose we have to. She was very careful. As usual, Nicholas Sturgeon was an expert. She always is. She used some very interesting phraseology. She said, talking about her paper, which was published almost immediately before she went live, so the press hyenas barely got a chance to read it. She said, "This is a first cut." No, Norrie, you know what that means. That's about making a movie, and it's way not finished.
I did find that interesting, because that suggests you've got everything you need there, and you're deciding what's included and what's excluded. I'm not sure that's really the position.
Well, you're supporting Jimmy there. You're sort of saying, yeah, Jimmy's got it right, yeah?
What struck me more about it was the fact how willing they are to say that we don't have all the information we want to make the decisions. That's very unpolitician-like. Politicians usually come out with definitive statements, regardless of what the evidence says.
I think that's an attempt to bounce London into trying to do the same kind of thing, mate. I thought a lot of our language was very collegiate. We want to work together with the public. It also makes it very difficult for the dog pack to run in there and start tearing strips of it, because nothing is set in stone. Nothing is absolutely 100% guaranteed. So where do they stick their teeth?
I actually think the Tories made a strategic error in allowing Sturgeon that afternoon slot for her presser.
Yeah, you're probably right, mate.
Because it does force the agenda into the papers, and it makes it look like she's leading.
Well, she is leading. I mean, you said, Norrie, that on the one hand, you thought that they were down in London. They're quite happy for her to go first today, because then they can decide what they're going to say at 5 o'clock. Or was it you, Jimmy? But let me just give you a couple of other words that she used today. She sounded like an academic. She said, we're talking about evidence, data, modeling, iterative bases, iterative facts. Now, who uses the word iterative but an academic? She's got them going, woo! And then she said, interestingly,
I use it. It's a great word. Nobody knows what you're talking about when you use it.
You're a bit of an academic on the slide, aren't you?
No, it's one of those words you throw in to confuse.
And then she said another very interesting point. She said, the virus is causing real damage, real harm, but so is the lockdown. It's also causing real harm. And my job is to balance the two. And that gets her she gets her off the hook, you know, and by putting everything into the public domain before she makes the decision, whose fault is it when she makes the decision then?
Yeah, it's definitely a clever move.
It takes the heat off by saying, look, this isn't simple, and here's why. To simply stand up and say, look, this is really complicated, it's difficult, and oh God, what these decisions are, you know, Gordian knots multiplied by 10. It allows her to take her time and for the public to get on her side. Whereas when you stand up in front of a podium and simply say, oh, these are really complicated, difficult decisions, and by inference, you're too stupid to understand that, so we'll just make them for you. She's doing the opposite of that.
Well, that's the danger. That's the danger that's what will come out of London, because that's how London's always treated the public, that they know better down in Whitehall, so they're going to take the decisions that we aren't astute enough to take. And they're still trying to run that line, even though clearly they've been reacting to everything. They've been proactive about nothing since, I don't know, before Christmas.
Well, London definitely watches it, because the day she used the phrase, you can bring a business back to life, you can't bring the dead back to life.
Oh, that was brilliant.
That was repeated that evening on the Westminster
Norrie, it's
podium.
going to prove very interesting tonight to see who gets the short straw, who's got to come out and follow that. Because I think we can say for certain, it wouldn't be the man in the iron flask. He's still hiding. So he's going to send out one of his minions to try and put forward the sensible options that are going to come out of London. And we didn't see sensible options coming out of London. They're still up to their neck in not being able to provide PPE. They're still up to their neck in not being able to prevent this virus spreading in the way that they said they would prevent it when they initiated lockdown. I mean, the figures in the northwest of England are really horrendous at the moment. I'd hate to live in Dumfries and Galloway. I know that they're mostly Tories down there, so we're not that fussed about them, but I'd hate to live there.
Oh, come on,
Cumbria is awful at the moment.
I've got good mates in the borders.
I know, mate, but
exactly. She's all. I mean, it doesn't end. It doesn't end here, by the way. I mean, she also brought up what the future will be. It will be TTI, which is test, trace, and investigate. And of course, that's what the press pack. This is what the press pack wanted to hear. Without even pausing for breath, she brought up border control, and she said that she didn't say, but she did say, "I want to control my borders. I'm not happy about the number of people flying into Scotland's airports unchecked, but it's reserved." All right, she didn't say that, but we know that's what she meant when she brought it up.
Well, she's doing that thing that she does really well. She's looking down the road. She's not looking 24 hours ahead. She's looking 2 weeks ahead and thinking this will become an issue. If we're asking people to continue to self-isolate, to continue to stay at home, not go to work, we can't justify to the public that the tourists or whatever are flying in, possibly infecting us. Mm-hmm. She's seen that one coming.
There's certain things as well that are happening out with their control that I think they are worried about and they are desperate to stop but can't. For example, all the builders merchants are open on Monday, Norrie. So I'm assuming that a lot of building sites are going to go back Monday, regardless.
I'm sorry, has the Scottish Government not given the police the powers to shut down building sites?
Well, the English...
They have if they're not self-isolating, but do you ken a police that's going to go up 15 levels into a tower block to see if the guys are self-isolating or not?
The English building sites are going back next Monday, aren't they? I'm not sure if she's going to make any difference there.
Oh, wait a minute. This isn't a government announcement, is it? This is Wimpy and
this is people taking it on their own back. Their business is folding, is hemorrhaging money, and they cannot afford to stay shut, whilst government schemes are not paying what they said they would.
Well, that's going to be a real crunch time. Mm-hmm. Then that's possibly going to be the first time that the Scottish Government reacts significantly differently.
I don't know if they will. I don't think that was a really big issue at the time when they made a different call on that one when the lockdown came in. I don't think that was... why was it different? Come on, tell me.
It was different because the Westminster government was prepared to take the word of the builders that they were self-isolating, and Sturgeon's position was, no, you can't build private homes. You can only be on a building site to build what is necessary, hospitals, etc. That was her position.
It is almost impossible to self-isolate on a building site. Anybody that's ever been on one will tell you that. But what you're going to get is joiners and plumbers and that going back out, because they're self-employed and they're seeing no dough. If they see the building sites go back, they'll go back or not. All the wee guys that are 714.
Aye. Who, by the way, can probably, I mean, all the wee guys with a van.
Aye,
I mean,
they're
all the guys
safer than the big sites.
They're drinking the bowlers. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, they can basically keep their social distancing.
Right, where's the bowlers, Norrie? You have to tell the viewers and listeners.
It's at the end of my street in Leith.
Okay, that still doesn't help really much, does it?
He doesn't want his groupies turning up trying to buy him a Guinness.
I was about to say, where's the bowlers? You mean 1960?
So there you can get. Well, you might get a free pint of Guinness tonight for that one.
Cracking wee boozer, but it's shut.
It's shut. Can I just bring up the question of TTI, as it's called? What did we say? Test, trace, investigate?
Isolate.
Right. So my fault. Now the press thought they had the Scottish government via the Ghoulies. They didn't. Gene Freeman. They were saying, how are you going to manage? You're going to need all these volunteers, you know, you're going to need all these testing capacity. And they kind of swerved the testing capacity. Said, we will have that. And how are they going to do all this? Isolate. They've got to identify who needs isolating.
The tracing's difficult. It needs a lot of bodies.
Yes, but as Gene Freeman said, we've got 21,000 volunteers already signed up.
I've got a major problem about TTI, and that being that they're going to trust a lot to this app that they're trying to develop. Now, San Francisco and Palo Alto aren't using an app because the people there know just how much data mining goes on through apps. So they refuse to go the app route. And let's be honest, 75% of people that have perished so far are over 70. How many over 70s do you carry with a smartphone, guys?
Well, that's an interesting. Well, before you move on, that was another thing that was thrown into the bright sunlight today. That it looks as though they may be moving to advise everybody over 55 because to be not necessarily shielding, but they're all vulnerable.
65, I thought.
Yes, that was merely a suggestion.
That's only 5 years. You sure it was only?
I thought she said 65. I might be wrong.
I could be wrong. But that was interesting that the threshold was being lowered.
Well, as I think I've already said 3 or 4 times, your problem with testing is getting to the people who need tested. It's not your capacity. It's getting the number of people tested that you want tested. You're going to have to send people out into the community to do the testing.
Particularly if you're going to start tracing.
And then you're going to have to send people out into the community to do the tracing. So I don't know how many thousands of people you need for that to be an efficient operation.
No, they've already covered that last week. It starts off, the tracing starts off with call centers, apparently. And Jean Freeman covered that last week. She said they're already setting up call centers for the tracing of people.
Hey, that's if you're the kind of mug that's willing to let them have all your information through a mobile phone app. I genuinely don't think many people will. Seriously, in South Korea, they only had a 20% uptake. People know that they don't want the government to have that level of information on them.
Oh yeah, but Jimmy, I know you're really pressing this phone app, but I didn't hear the connection to any phone app today or last week.
Well, how else did they collect their information and trace people? Are they going to do it? Are they physically going to do it?
I don't know.
The testing.
Sample testing, like opinion people. You know, they just phone up people.
No. They test people. People that are found positive, you then have to find out who they've been in contact with.
All right, well, that's back to where they should have been with a German style.
You then have to trace those people. The phone app could be useful if there's a big enough uptake. But Freeman said today that they weren't depending on that.
Did she?
Yeah.
All right.
She mentioned it. It was a brief part of what she said. But she said, well, she didn't sound confident in it, put it that way. I would imagine they'll incorporate it if it works. But I think it would be a foolish thing expecting it to carry the whole load. I think you need people on the ground.
Aye, the Germans are using about 100,000 bodies, 100,000 people to do the tracing.
What's their population? 80 million.
It'd be 80 million. So roughly, it'd be about 80 to 90,000 people would need in the UK to do a similar kind of set up a similar kind of scheme to what's running in Germany.
Well, look, they need in Scotland, and we've already got, they say they've already got 21,000 volunteers. They're people with some sort of medical experience that have all volunteered to come back and help.
Here's a prediction for you. I don't know if any of you guys were members of the Red Cross when you were kids, when you were younger.
Civil defence for me. I signed this official secrets act. I can't tell you where the nuclear bombs are hidden.
Okay. Is that
everybody else in Scotland can tell you exactly where they're hidden, mate, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Is that no, just find a protest with CND? And that'll no take you right there. No, I was going to say that one of the things I think will come out of this is you'll have some sort of volunteer unit set up for training to test and
Barry, all the Curtin Twitters and the Jessies will be straight at the front of the queue for that one.
Well,
all the who spent the last couple of weeks grassing on their neighbours.
There's two reasons I think that'll happen. One is because it's actually quite a good idea to have a bunch of people that have some training in it before it happens again. But two, it's unionism. It's the unity of the UK. And it'll be called something like British Tracing blah, 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 or
German
whatever.
Betty's Tracers.
I thought they'd already started in England with some kind of, they're looking for 20 or 30,000 volunteers for some testing already.
Yeah,
well, I would imagine they would go to volunteers.
And they're supposedly sending it kits to people, but we'll see if that actually happens or whether it's just some pie in the sky nonsense that Matt Hancock dreamt up when he was worrying about being sacked.
Well, can I ask you, Norrie, have you planned your Christmas with the family yet?
Yeah.
Well, apparently that may be cancelled, but Nicholas Sturgeon refused to admit that it was going to be cancelled.
She didn't cancel Christmas. She said that the Daily Record are going to be absolutely mortified because they've had a page mocked up with her as the Grinch for about 14 weeks now, hoping she would say, we're going to have to cancel Christmas.
That was basically the question for the Record, Nicola. Are you really the Grinch? What a sad question for a supposed newspaper to ask.
Well, Chris Whitty last night, he more or less, he said that there won't be much relaxation of the restrictions until the end of the year. So, why didn't they just press him for it? That must be Christmas.
Well, to be honest with you, that was an interesting move by Chris Whitty yesterday. I thought that was him setting up Hancock as the fall guy. And I do wonder if he's got the balls to realise that and resign. Because it's almost a cert when Boris comes back, they're going to need people to blame.
Boris,
straight in the crosshairs for that, isn't he?
As was said yesterday, Boris isn't coming back until he's got lockdown finished in my time. That's when you'll see Boris back. That's the next major announcement you'll hear out of Boris Johnson's mouth. And that'll happen as soon as the Trump administration has fiddled the statistics for remaining open in America.
I suspect that they're probably polishing up one of those second-hand gold coaches the Queen normally gets in, just specially for Boris Johnson, so he can ride down the Mall waving his Union Jack and on a zip wire and land in the gold coach.
It'll be an NHS flag, not a Union Jack. Out of both sides.
Who's else at the same time, I know.
So I see Gene Freeman gave Annie Wells a bit of a kicking on Twitter as well today.
Oh, I've not seen that. Do tell.
Give me 1 second. Annie Wells had tweeted the usual about, I have heard, the usual anecdotal stuff, that there's still not enough PPE. And Gene Freeman tweeted back and said, well, Annie, you should have contacted me because tweeting won't solve that problem.
That was a cracker, wasn't it?
I'm glad they're fighting back over it. Because was PPE even mentioned today?
No, it didn't really come up, mate. People alluded to it. A couple of people mentioned it in their questions, but they didn't then ask questions about it. It was noticeable last night on Reporting Scotland just how much time we're given to the voices of unionism to complain about PPE, the way Mr. Kilgour and then your daft donut for the GMB spout noise nonsense.
That was a fit up yesterday in the politics show with Gordon Brewer as well, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or just let him go Raj. Oh, Gordon's getting a scalp to me.
If I was to get a question to the First Minister, that would be the question I asked. Can you tell me how much PPA has been procured by private care homes compared to the amount of PPE that has been given by the Scottish Government to private care homes?
Mm.
That would be the question I would want answered.
I was reading about one particular group this morning. Now, it's a nationwide group, which I'll not bother naming, but they've declared a loss in each of the last 11 years. And at the same time, they've paid out millions of pounds in dividends to shareholders. So that's creative accounting.
And they're also, home.
Yeah, they've also got themselves massive, and I mean multi-million pound tax
breaks.
Tax breaks. Aye, over 6.5 mil in that same time. So they're taking money out of the system left, right, and centre, and then they're complaining that there's no money in the system.
Well, that's maybe talking about people either taking out or not paying in. Do we have a stance? Now, I would like you to surprise me on this one, boys. Do we have a stance on government aid for companies that are based in the Caymans, etc., in tax havens?
You're not going to be surprised, mate, are you?
Sure. Oh, give us a new slant on it.
No, name. I've just sat here and realised something that's quite interesting. I'm sorry, I need to share it with you guys. So, everybody's shouting and criticising this government that was elected in the United Kingdom. Everybody's shouting and complaining about the government that was elected, the president that was elected in USA. That's almost a kind of code for saying we've got the wrong electorate. We need to change the electorate. People are saying, oh no, because, you know, the electorate, somebody was saying last week, they were saying, oh, well, that's democracy for you. Oh, and that's almost, again, it's a code word for saying, well, we need to change the electorate. They need to be better educated or something. We actually have an answer to that problem here in Scotland. We can change the electorate. All we do is grab our independence, and then we've got a Scottish electorate.
I take it you wanted to change the subject then, Stuart?
Oh, no, it's bursting out of me.
Right, okay.
Don't forget whatever you were talking about now.
Aye, Norrie. I think we should go down the route of the Polish government. Strangely enough, it's the first time I've seen a sensible policy coming out of Warsaw for a long time, but they've went along with the Danes and said nobody that is non-domiciled will be getting government funding, government bailout money.
I've got to do my usual thing here and say there's an awful lot of British people getting wages out of these companies.
Yeah, mate, but let's be clear. If
we could just give them loans.
Well, do you think Richard Branson will pay back £500 million to the UK government? They'll find a way not to do it.
No, I like Norrie's plan. Just give them loans, just like Rangers.
Aye, well,
you've lost me there, Stuart.
Oh, they're loans that are never repaid.
Or take equity in the company.
That's what I'd do. Give Richard Branson a £5 and take his 51% of Virgin. If he thinks it's going to fold, give him a £5 and we'll run it. We'll make sure it doesn't fold, but he doesn't profit out of it anymore because he's the one that's run it into the ground.
It's our money that's paying for it anyway, so I suppose.
Yeah, but don't forget the money is actually in the hands of hedge fund investors, and they are paying for the Tory party. So where does that take you?
That I could see that becoming a major issue if the press get behind it.
Well, there's also the fact that in 2009, Richard Branson stated that British Airways should be allowed to go under rather than receiving government help. Now, far more people work for British Airways than work for Virgin. And he just said, the market's tough. If they can't work in that market, they should be allowed to fold. So why should he be saved if he was willing to watch his major rivals go under?
Well, I do think there's ways to put money into Virgin that essentially, how can I put it, forces them into paying tax in Britain, and one of it would be taking an equity stake in the company. And basically, it then becomes board policy that you pay your tax in the UK.
To be honest, I didn't think the British government will do anything with Virgin until they find out exactly what's happening with American Airlines.
Well, they've got
Delta own the other 49%, don't they?
Well, they've got a massive problem if there are British companies go to the wall because they haven't had enough money. You know, tax-paying British companies go to the wall because the government hasn't wedged them in enough.
I don't care. I don't care whether Richard Branson's Virgin Airways folds or not, to be honest.
I do for the jobs.
Well, I should, but I mean, thousands, possibly millions of jobs are being lost as we sit here.
Richard Branson won't be a penny poorer.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, I mean,
yeah, but given that where he's based, mate, the worry is that not only will his staff lose out, because mate, come on, let's be honest, pilots and that are going to get taken back on by whoever actually buys up the planes and the routes if Virgin go under.
No, I'm not so sure, Jimmy. I think you could find that the market for flying, world flying, will be considerably smaller.
No, I think you're right. I think
you're right. There will be a smaller market, but Virgin operates on particularly profitable routes, mate. So somebody will buy them over. The worry would be that Richard Branson's done a Philip Green and he's filched the pension fund as well.
I'm trying to remember if I've ever flown Virgin. I don't think I have. Don't think so. Might have come back from the States. No, that wasn't Virgin. That was American Airlines. Right. Anybody else spot anything interesting? Any wee nuggets that we've not hit?
As I say, I think Hancock might shock everybody and walk away. He must know that he's been lined up as the fall guy, and he can't possibly be as daft as we all think he is. And if he walks away, he gets to absolutely eviscerate Boris Johnson in a resignation speech. Because if he's sacked, he doesn't get that opportunity.
Yeah, well, it could be. If you're right, I'll buy you a pint. Oh, the pub's not open yet. Bugger.
You can buy me a can of Asda.
I do think there's a possibility that the unity that's been shown at the moment will disintegrate. I think Gove might try and challenge Boris on some level. If Hancock goes, he's on the Brexiteer side, or the extreme Brexiteer side of the government.
Who's
it'll be
going
interesting.
To take the poison chalice, a health secretary, if he does actually go?
Jeremy Hunt.
Jeremy's not going to. Mate,
no,
he's busily trying to.
Jeremy Hunt will take it.
He's busily trying to redraw his entire history, mate. There's no danger.
But his argument will be, in fact, he's already said that he made a mistake in not paying enough attention to the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. So he's got that out the way. He's done his mea culpa. And he just sounds like a, compared to the rest of them, he sounds like a grown-up.
Yeah, but I mean, you're actually imagining Jeremy Hunt riding in on a white Charger to save us all.
No, a grey donkey, maybe.
He'd marry the donkey.
But seriously, if you had a choice between Hancock and Hunt, who would you take?
Careful how you speak.
Aye. I would take neither.
You can't do that, Jimmy. That's the other problem with this. People should resign, government should step aside, da-da-da. You're only going to get more Tories. Even if there's another general election, England will vote Tory.
Aye.
And it wouldn't matter, by the way, if every single accusation was proved to be accurate about how they've dealt with the corona pandemic. It'll go back to being about Brexit.
Mm-hmm. Well,
do you remember Brexit?
No, I'd kind of forgotten about that until you mentioned it there, mate, because we've kind of run up against a couple of cliff edges that we weren't expecting on the way to the cliff edge of December the 31st, haven't we?
And we've got cliff edge after cliff edge after cliff edge. Okay, guys, we're getting near the end, but we cannot leave without congratulating Jimmy on allowing boredom to actually send him over the edge.
It's just a haircut, man.
And go Clipper mad.
You talking to me?
Jimmy, I have to say that's a statement.
It's a lockdown crop, mate. Come on, I was bored.
I'm beginning to wonder if you're really a lesbian under all that.
Oh dear, I do hope that some of those who plotted against Alex aren't watching or listening, Norrie, because they'll be searching. They ken the bowlers is at the end of your street, mate. They'll be up and down the street in the bother boots.
I'll get the hammer and nails out ready for them. Get the crucifixion over with quickly. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining me today. Stuart Lockhead, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Norrie Stewart. And thank you, folks, for watching, listening. And we'll catch you all tomorrow, hopefully. And remember, Friday is Hat Day.
Right.
Yahoo.